can see it already in the tech stocks. They are moving so incredibly high right now. They are taking off. What is going on, guys? I hope you're having a fantastic day. It was absolutely crazy. I am sure most of you were up super late like myself last night watching all the election coverage and trying to figure out what the heck is going on in the markets. So we are going to get into that today and try to break it all down and see what is the next steps in the short term, long term, and really over the next 4 years. What are we going to be anticipating in the stock market, even with some of the unknowns that we still have? We don't know the president, but we do have a lot of answers to other questions, and it's really going to drive particular stocks up or lower. So without further ado, I'm going to need you to drop a sub, leave a like, and chat it up in the comments below, because we're doing a giveaway once we get to 250 subscribers for an Amazon gift card. And Amazon is one of those companies that I like going forward. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So obviously the big news today is the aftermath of the election. Now to recap, there was a lot at stake for both parties. You had every single seat in the House of Representatives up for basically determination. Everybody was going to either get reelected or get kicked out. So what people were predicting was that the Democrats were going to expand their control to more of the, than the majority than they had previously in the House. But so far, it looks like actually Republicans, though they're not going to hold the majority, they have taken back a lot of the seats and beaten a few of the incumbents on the Democratic side. So what this means is essentially, those close votes are going to get even closer in Congress, and you're going to need even more bipartisan agreement on both sides of the aisle to get anything done in the House of Representatives. Furthermore, if we're moving on to the Senate, we're saving the presidency for last. If we're moving on to the Senate races, so far it looks like Republicans are going to hold the majority in the Senate. So what this means is essentially, if you're just looking at both the Senate and the House of Representatives, you are going to already have split government, which if we're talking about in terms of the stock market, this is a very good thing, because take the president out of the equation for the moment. This basically confirms that we aren't going to get any super radical changes as far as the Green New Deal or anything like that implemented here in the next couple of years, at least until, we have midterm elections here in the next 2 years. Now, moving on to the presidency, obviously this is the big question mark. There are a lot of concerns as to kind of the, the validity and all vote and all this sort of stuff. It looks like we're not going to know anything probably here, at least until probably Friday, I would say at the earliest. If I'm kind of looking at the map right now, I think in the time of making this video, I think Joe Biden probably has a better chance of becoming the president right now than Donald Trump. And I would say that this would be disappointing to the markets if for any reason that, Democrats had pulled off the Senate. Obviously, it's not done yet, but the odds are that the Republicans are going to hold the Senate. I think it's very, 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 very high likelihood. And what this basically means is gridlock, and you can see it already in the tech stocks. They are moving so incredibly high right now. They are taking off. Google, one of the companies that I was absolutely preaching that you guys need to go out and buy if you could afford a share, because they are taking off now. Because if you remember, a lot of these big tech companies, there has been all this discussion about antitrust. Basically, are they getting too big? Do they need to be broken up and stuff like that? And that was pretty much largely being driven by the Democratic side. So in order for that to happen, the Democrats would have needed to take control of both the House of Representatives and the Senate, which, if obviously they're not taking control of the Senate, this basically means that we are at least safe for another 2 years until midterms in the Senate come back around. Is, if you're Google or Apple or any of these other big tech companies, which had been previously hinted at maybe getting too large. So that is why you're seeing a massive takeoff for these particular companies. On the flip side, if we're going to talk about Nikola Motors a little bit here and some of the other EVs, the biggest thing and the best thing that could have happened for these particular stocks would have been a Democratic sweep. Because if the Democrats had swept, everything would have come to the forefront as far as climate change, a lot of these green initiatives and stuff like that. And obviously, the Democrats would have been sitting there rewarding companies like Nikola, Tesla, other EV and alternative propulsion aside from, oil, natural gas, coal, stuff like that. they would have been the companies that would have been rewarded. So I think that is a big reason why you see Nikola down today, amongst all the other things that obviously we know about the stock. The Democrats are not going to sweep. So for the broader overall market, this is a very good thing. And then you've got a lot of these EV niche stocks, a lot of like the marijuana industry, like anybody who is betting big on those particular industries and some of the companies that maybe aren't like grounded as well. Like Tesla is really Tesla and NIO are the two EVs that I would say are grounded in pretty much irrespective of who becomes president. They would have done fine, or even if the Democrats didn't sweep, they would have done fine. However, some of the other EVs like, Nikola, Helion, these companies, there's a lot more question marks because they are really in the initial startup phase, and they already have a lot of questions aside from, what support they're going to get from the government, or, benefits or write-offs and stuff like that they could get for producing EVs and hydrogen and all sorts of stuff like that. So definitely that is why I think one of the big reasons Nikola is down today, as well as marijuana and all of these stocks that really, really, really were betting on a full Democratic sweep. Now, if we want to look ahead a little bit into the future and kind of see what is in line for stocks, in the short term, and when I say short term, really after the next couple of weeks, or really once we find out who the president is, I think that right now, knowing that we are going to have a House of Representatives that's Democrat, and then the Senate, which is Republican, this tells me right now, my gut is that it is going to be a decent 2 to 4 years, regardless of who the next president is. Excuse me, and I was up late and my stomach is not feeling right, so I digress. But anyways, whoever wins the presidency, I think we are going to, from a market return standpoint, be okay. Now, I think that obviously once we get into the phase where we are out of the coronavirus and the coronavirus is taken care of, that is where you may see the two candidates and the market reaction to the candidates really kind of ramp up. So Donald Trump has basically said that he wants to lower the corporate tax rate. So if the corporate tax rate is lowered, this is going to essentially make a lot of these companies more profitable than they already are, ultimately increasing their share price and stuff like that. So that is going to reward us investors. On the flip side, Joe Biden has said that he wants to increase corporate tax rate. But the thinking behind this, and a lot of people argue, well, Joe Biden's not going to increase the corporate tax rate immediately because that wouldn't make sense if you're in the middle of a recession or trying to combat the coronavirus and all these businesses struggling. Why are you going to tax them more? So that is the counter argument to all of this, that, okay, if Joe Biden wants to raise taxes, he's not going to do it immediately. It's going to be a couple years down the line, maybe once COVID is under control. So I completely understand that argument, but it's a big question mark, whereas you kind of know what you're going to be getting with Donald Trump as far as no new shutdowns, no higher taxes and stuff like that. So the market obviously is favoring Donald Trump in this respect. They would prefer Donald Trump. The other flip side here, if Joe Biden, in fact, wins the presidency, is you're probably going to see a lot of stimulus start pumping out in regards to COVID relief and stuff like that. Whether you agree, disagree, whatever, that's probably what's going to happen. And the market, at least in the short term, is really going to react positive to this. Now, and then on the counter side, right, there's always a flip side or an argument to everything. A lot of people think the reason why Republicans were so against a lot of this stimulus and COVID relief really leading into the election was, right, they don't want to spend massively right before an election. Same thing with Nancy Pelosi. She was unwilling to kind of compromise with the Republicans because, neither side wanted to appear like they had basically given up to the other side and given them the upper hand in negotiations. Obviously, there are a lot of questions going forward. I think still the best bet that you can continue, put your money in. There's no reason to sit back and miss out on these gains and returns, because I can almost guarantee 4 years from now, we are going to be better off than we are now because we do have that, split government. We have the gridlock basically all but confirmed now. So that is good from a market return perspective. I do still, you cannot bet against the technology companies right now. It is such, they are so central to the overall economy. as their impact in the indexes really just continues to grow. Like I think the 5 technology companies basically make up like 25% of the S&P 500. So obviously there's going to be big focus on these companies. They're going to continue to grow and continue to give nice solid returns. So that is my spiel. There's obviously a lot of news that can come out, can still change, a lot of question marks, a lot of unknowns. I would say the only disclaimer, if this thing goes to the courts and starts getting bashed out in the courts and, you know, it's weeks and months into it, then I think you're going to see the market start to really get nervous and, you know, potentially start to really sell off. So far, it seems like they are still kind of betting on a President Trump come from behind victory. So we're going to have to wait and see. Let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling in the comments below. Very interested to see your, your views on a lot of these EV companies and, you know, any company that you think may have benefited from a Democrat sweep. And then on the flip side, any companies that you feel are really going to benefit from this like split form of government that we now have, which creates gridlock, which is in general pretty good for the overall market if history has taught us anything. So let me know in the comments below if you are new to the channel and you're excited for personal finance and like what's ahead and what's around the corner. Drop a like and leave a sub. And then, before we go, I got to drop you with today's fun fact. There's like a bunch because it's all president related and stuff like that, because obviously today is the day in history where we usually find out what who the next president is. So I'm going to leave you with this because this is a president who is most likened to Donald Trump, and that's Ronald Reagan. So today in 1980, Ronald Reagan was elected president, and it was a booming defeat. So I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the day. Don't stress. It's gonna be fine. Irrespective of who is in, it is fine. We are in the greatest country that has ever existed on planet Earth. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you tomorrow.